Russian President Vladimir Putin's military, once feared, now mocked. No laughing, the officer says to her recruits. Ask your wives, girlfriends, mothers for period pads and tampons. Do you know what tampons are for? You stick it in a bullet wound, she says, it swells and closes the wound. Bring your own sleeping bag too, the men are told. On television, the hundreds of thousands being mobilized by President Putin are well equipped. In reality, their videos on social media tell a different tale. We were officially told that there would be no training before being sent to the combat zone, this recruit says. We had no shooting, no tactical training, no theoretical training, nothing. Another officer addresses his recruits. If you have hernias, plates in your head, I was told you're fit for mobilization, he says, so stop saying you can't. I live on pills, so if I go, you'll be doing your tasks like everyone else. CNN cannot independently verify these widely circulated videos. Even the deputy prime minister of the Donetsk People's Republic, annexed Friday by Russia, couldn't help but be honest as the city of Liman fell to Ukrainian forces. The situation on the Liman front is bad, let's speak frankly, he tells a Russian propagandist. Everything is the same as everywhere else, namely, there are not enough people. The sorry state has tainted the hallowed halls of Russian state television, where careful skepticism about Putin's war is increasingly tolerated. This time it's the head of the state-owned RT network. If I had to gather trainloads of body armor, socks and the rest for those already on the front line, she asks, have these 300,000 been supplied with all that they need? These recruits in the central city of Perm clearly haven't. They lament being dropped by the side of the road late at night, saying they'll have to build a fire to stay warm. The impact is plain to see. Ukraine recaptured more territory in the past month than Russia had gained in the past 5. Ukrainian intelligence, well aware of the propaganda value, regularly puts out intercepted calls between Russian soldiers and family back home. There should be helicopters, planes, the woman says. There's nothing, 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 says the soldier. What kind of army is this, she replies. Just a TV show? Putin's army, once feared, now in disarray.
Erin, there's also been criticism by the leader of the southern Russian Chechen Republic of Chechnya, Ramzan Kadyrov, expressing not only his desire that a nuclear bomb now be dropped on Ukraine, but also criticizing the Russian top brass. Now, this matters, Erin, because it's cutting through. As you heard there, it's being reported on Russian media. This all began with those defeats in the greater Kharkiv region as whispers amongst pro-Russian bloggers. That has now grown deafening, and it's being heard by ordinary Russians, even as this conscription drive is underway, Erin.
Melissa Bell, thank you very much. Live from Kyiv tonight. I want to go now to retired Army Lieutenant General Mark Hertling, former commanding general for Europe and the 7th Army. So, General, just to respond here to what we just all watched, recruits being told to use tampons to treat bullet wounds, stick it in and it'll soak up the blood and fill the space of the wound. Sleeping directly on the cold ground. Commander saying, I live on pills, so who cares what your health issues are? Get out there. What will this mean for the war?
Erin, I had an opportunity about 10 years ago when I was still commanding in Europe to go to a Russian basic training outfit. What I saw there was a lack of qualification on weapons, no first aid training, treatment of new recruits in a horrible way, poor food, terrible leadership. This is just reminiscent of all this. And these are mobilized individuals. These are guys who haven't been serving for a while. So they not only got those that kind of training when they first came in, but it's been probably years since they actually served in a unit. So those skills deteriorate. These individuals, when Putin decided to call up 300,000 people, he didn't have the capability to lead, train, equip, or mobilize any of those forces. So it's just more cannon fodder into the fight.
So let me ask you about that, because the map of where things stand right now in Ukraine, Nick was going through the crucial developments. The solid yellow areas are where Ukraine has mounted a counteroffensive. Russian soldiers there have been fleeing en masse. Now, while these new recruits are obviously not good, not trained, not ready, there will be hundreds of thousands of them. I mean, that's at least it seems. And that's bodies. It's bodies to go down. It's bodies to fire guns and missiles. Can Ukraine sustain this very, very quick counteroffensive in the face of just that raw body count coming in on the other side?
Are you talking, can Ukraine sustain this counteroffensive?
Yeah, I mean,
I think they can. Yeah. Absolutely, they can. Yeah, they can. There are. This is an operation where the Russian military is retreating. The Ukrainian military is pursuing as well as conducting these attacks. That is one of the most difficult kind of operations to conduct, because they're literally chasing retreating soldiers off the battlefield. One of the concerns I would have right now is something called a tactical or an operational pause. The Ukrainian soldiers are going to have to stop to resupply, get more fuel, get more ammunition, rest a little bit, because they have been going hard for tens of kilometers going after these forces. And it's not only occurring in places where Nick was or where Melissa is, it's happening all along the front. One of the things that Melissa said that I think was very interesting, the front line for the Ukrainians is constricting. The places they have to move to is lessening. The Russians are still surrounding that, what we call exterior lines on the outer forces. They still have to try and move forces around. They can't do it, because the Ukrainians have also captured the railroad stations and destroyed the supply depots of the Russian military. And
when we talk about Putin is doing this because his options are narrowing, U.S. officials are now considering how to respond to a range of potential scenarios, and that includes any use of nuclear weapons, right? They're spending a lot of time on that, as they should be. You heard Secretary Austin say in his exact quote, to be clear, there's one guy who makes that decision. It's one man. There are no checks on Mr. Putin. Do you agree with the Secretary of Defense?
I do. One of the things that the U.S. military is very good at is planning. And they will take in all kinds of consideration and develop all kinds of courses of actions on how to react to an enemy. The one thing you can't predict is what a psychopath on the other side is going to do. You can talk about watching and gaining intelligence for where nuclear or chemical weapons are being moved to or displaced from, but what you can't do is decide or determine the decision-making of that one man at the top. That's the problem.
And it does sound, though, that what he's saying is this sort of hope that people have, that there's a chain of command and that somebody would refuse the order, that there's going to be sanity in the command. That it sounds like he's saying no, that there are no checks.
Well, what I'd say is one of the axioms of a military guy is to understand that hope is not a method. You can't hope for someone to interfere with orders from Putin to his troops. You have to plan for what happens if. Yeah. So, I agree with Secretary Austin. He's right on target. Never underestimate the enemy or the enemy's commander, and never hope for what you think is going to happen. You have to plan for countering it when it does occur.
General, thank you very much, as always.
Pleasure, Aaron. Thanks.